Welcome everybody, this is How to English, Teach and Learn with Gav and Em.
It's a podcast about teaching and learning English as a foreign language.
All opinions stated are personal and references will be given when possible.
Welcome, Em.
Hello Gav.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm very well, and hello to all the listeners too.
Hello listeners.
How are they doing?
I'm listening. Yeah, they say they're fine too.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad everybody is paying attention and ready for this episode of How to English with Gav and Em.
And the topic today, Gav, is innovative methods.
It is. And that's what we're going to talk about. And we have a special guest teacher, an innovative teacher, who will describe how he engages his students in a very original way.
Very excited about that.
But before we start, is there anything you'd like to tell the listeners, Em?
Oh, you've put me on the spot. I was just looking at a little bit of research online about innovative teaching methods in EFL. And there's obviously the tried and tested best practice methods, which we know work, but there are new developing, evolving methods, which is what we're going to talk about today. Some of these examples. As a general view, I went to TEFLindia.com and they had a very interesting article about innovation in the classroom, which is not the prescriptive out of the book kind of teaching. It could be something like task-based learning. Do you know what that is, Gav?
I've heard of that. I think we talked about that.
It's where you have a task like ordering food at a restaurant or booking a hotel or just making something from instructions, and the focus is the task, not the language, and the language comes out naturally.
That sounds a bit like making an IKEA table.
Our infamous IKEA manual assembly that we discussed a long time ago, Gav. Yeah, it could be something like that. Collaboration, anyway.
Which episode was it?
I don't know. It could have been anything. I think it may have been reading, because I remember we had an argument about whether or not you had to read anything, and I said no, because IKEA doesn't give you any words.
That's true. Well, you have to read it in a sense. And also, you could dictate the instructions to your partner who has to assemble the table.
Are we just going to have the same conversation? Dictate what? There are no words.
Well, dictating instructions. Anyway, episode 14, How to Reading. Sorry, I'm getting distracted, Em. Let's come back to...
Okay, so if we move away from these traditional methods and start using innovative methods, TEFLindia.com say that will create engagement initially, which is the goal. I think you agree with me there, Gav, yeah?
What, sorry?
Engagement.
Engagement, yes.
You're not engaged right now, are you? So
No.
If I did something innovative, like threw this glass of water into your face to get your attention, you would be engaged.
I would be. That would definitely get my attention.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a good teaching method, but it would get your attention. So engagement is the first thing. Then that will create a better academic ability because everything is moving around in your brain.
But this is obviously based on studies and research from academics, so please continue.
Yeah, and then there will be a paradigm shift between the teaching and the learning, which I think is quite an interesting concept. It may be a different focus, power level balance. And then that leads to a collaborative learning enhancement, which I think is what I mentioned before. The collaboration is really important, not working individually, but as a group. And then that will create a lower learning anxiety level.
Oh, wow. That seems really important when learning and teaching.
That does. So I think if you think about the goal of lowering the anxiety of students, how do you get to that? It's not easy to know, but these steps I think are quite nice, that the students may just be so engaged that they don't remember to feel anxious, nervous about the language they're producing. They're just very, and we know, don't we, from experience, when students try and express something to us that they're so invested in emotionally or so excited about telling you, they make so many more mistakes, but in a way it's really good for fluency and really good for just creating an environment where it's good to talk and everybody's happy to talk, and then you can work on the errors. That I think is a really good thing to keep in mind.
Focused on communication over accuracy.
Yeah. at least to generate that conversation at the beginning.
As long as you achieve the goal that you set for yourself at the beginning, as you said, task-based learning, then if you achieve that goal, then that's successful. You can always tidy up at the end.
Exactly, Gav, exactly. And I think that's a great result at the end of a lesson. You've done something, you've achieved it, and the proof is there.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, the EFL pudding. So, Gav, I'm sure you've been doing a little bit of research too, as you tend to do. What have you found?
Well, Em, I've also been looking at innovative ways of teaching. Recently, we had a wonderful question from one of our fabulous listeners, whose Instagram is Conversational English Online. So check out her page where she helps professionals speak English clearly and confidently. And she asked us to talk about Dogma, or the Dogme ELT approach. So I thought we could do a little demo of that later on.
That sounds like fun.
It's quite similar to the style that I teach anyway, so we'll see if that's something that the listeners would be interested in. Anyway, before that, Em, I would like to now introduce our featured teacher, Vitor Hugo, whose handle is Seu Teacher Agradece.
That will be in the show notes if you need to find it.
Which I apologise for the pronunciation, that was probably terrible. Let's have a listen to Vitor and hear about these innovative methods of teaching.
Hey Gav and Em. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invite. It's such an honor to be featured in your podcast. For the ones who don't know me, I'm Vitor Hugo, a 43-year-old Brazilian online teacher of English. Graduated in languages from Chapecó in the south of Brazil. I've been teaching English for over 25 years already, and I'm also known for my YouTube channel and for being a proud queer, a makeup enthusiast, and also a lip-sync assassin. Gav and Em, I have to tell you I'm so happy to be asked to talk a little about innovative methods to teach English, because my first intention when I decided to create my lip-sync sessions was to offer a different and fun way to learn English. Facts and statistics always help us understand why things are the way they are. So let me tell you that the second most popular video from my YouTube channel is the one where I explain the meaning of the word queer, because this term isn't translated into Portuguese here in Brazil, and even LGBT people over here don't usually know what it means. And the most popular video from my channel is the one where I list 10 pop songs students can use to practice the present perfect tense. The popularity of this video shows how people love to learn English with music. I've always been a huge fan of music myself, and learned so much from singing along with my fave artists and through understanding their lyrics that I wanted to give my followers a similar experience, but with a twist, with the challenge of answering English quizzes as they watch me perform. Being this queer teacher that I am, who is out and proud, I thought that expressing myself in this honest and gender-fluid way would not only motivate me to create content, but most importantly, offer diversity to our English as a second language online community. Gender-fluid people are usually accepted when they are entertaining, not educating. When they are laughed at, not listened to. That's why I chose to show and use my femininity to attract first and then teach. There are thousands of heteronormative English teachers out there, and I could easily be another one if I wanted. But why being ordinary when you can be extraordinary? Since I started presenting myself in this fearless queer way, I've gotten several messages both from queer teachers who feel represented by me but weren't brave enough to do the same in their professional accounts. And also from learners and followers who said they felt inspired to be who they really are after watching me. And talking about inspiration, let me tell you that the people who dare to cross the lines imposed by gender expectations are the ones who inspire me the most. From Alok Vaidmenon to Billy Porter, from Jonathan Van Ness to Pablo Vittar and Lineker, both Brazilian queer singers. They all have been paving the way for people like me, who need to feel comfortable enough in their skins to be alive first, to work and create art. And on the subject of creating art and having fun with English through music, Gav and Em also asked me to give you guys a few tips on how to become a lip sync assassin yourself. So, take notes, children. Rule number 1. Choose a song that you love and that means something to you, that moves you. Rule number 2. When studying the lyrics, remember that songs tell stories. You need to act the lyrics out. Sell that story to your viewer. And to do so, you've got to feel the meaning of every word. Rule number 3. Remember to exaggerate while lip syncing. Take drag queens, for instance. They aren't shy when they are performing, are they? By exaggerating your articulation, you will move and train the muscles you need to in order to enunciate better the next time you speak English. And after doing all that, don't forget to tag me in your lip sync. And if you're a beginner, start with artists that are usually easier to comprehend, like Jason Mraz, and the ones that do covers like Boys Avenue, Pentatonics, and Glee. Because every time a singer records a cover, they offer a different interpretation to a song. And almost always, those words that you don't usually get from the original version are clearly enunciated and easy to understand. So, my dears, that's how I do my part in this world to offer diversity, healing, and entertainment while teaching English online. Gav and Em, thank you once again for this generous invitation to contribute to your podcast. It was a huge pleasure. Kisses from Brazil.
Thanks, Vitor. That was really, really good.
That was fascinating. There was so much information in that. I think I might have to go back and listen to all of that again, Em.
Yes, probably a good idea. I think there was a lot packed in. But I really liked the fun element. Keep it fun. Choose songs you like. I think that's definitely the top tip for anything involving music, songs. I really liked how Vitor expanded on that though and said about making it a story, making it a whole performance, exaggeration. It's just so much more memorable when you put that much into something. And it's really rewarding when you look back on it, definitely.
I love that idea of exaggerating the way you express the words. And that will really help the way that you're lip syncing the language.
And then that transfers into everyday life. If you know those words and the shape of those words and how your mouth needs to be, and it's all very, very good muscle memory for your brain. Mm-hmm. Without even realising it, and you're having fun at the same time.
That's wonderful. So even if you're not very good at singing, as I think both of us have mentioned, you can still sing along to your favourite song, pulling all of those wonderful expressions. I've just had a look online for the best apps for lip syncing, and according to Easy Tech Trick, there are a few here. One of them is Dub Smash, which is good for dancing and singing, and allows you to edit and add filters or captions. There's also MuseStar, which is great for lip syncing music battles, and you can use the Vine Editor app along with it on your smartphone. And there's plenty of others to try, and they're all on Android and iOS. Of course, there's also Instagram and TikTok, which have plenty of effects and filters you can try. I definitely think you could just hold your phone up, video yourself, and then use one of the apps that are available for free to add lyrics, maybe add some sparkles and some blurry, wonderful things, spotlights, etc. It sounds really cool. Just like the ones that Vitor's put online.
Yeah, they are so glam. It's lovely.
And they're amazing as well because, as Vitor mentioned, you can have quizzes. So I've seen on Instagram there are multiple choice. You choose the right words, which words are in the song.
The next time you're in the supermarket and you hear the song, you can just quickly launch into your lip syncing thing and get out your phone and you're there and you know it. And
that's wonderful.
Great. Or if you do karaoke with your friends or you've got your song that you know.
So it's a kind of upgrade from karaoke.
Yeah. I think it's a whole other level.
I also like how Vitor mentioned that the most popular videos were the ones practicing present perfect, so students could actually learn specific grammar in English through practicing the songs, and that's a great way to learn English.
Exactly. So if you know you've got an issue with a certain tense and you really need help with it and the standard methods are not working for you, try this because it it really will get into a part of your brain that is not being accessed by the other ways. So it'll work, maybe. You'll just automatically have that in your mind.
That's it. Learning chunks of language, as we often say, a really effective way to improve your grammar. So the advantage of having a lip sync assassin as an English teacher is that the language will be better focused for the students rather than just a show of your skills.
Yeah, definitely. And whereas some teachers may just use songs because they like that song or something, I think Vitor is actually kind of got this huge repertoire of knowledge that means that they can pinpoint something from one song that deals with a certain language point. And I can imagine, what a great teacher to have, what a great library at your disposal. Instead of English books, it's songs.
Yeah, and Vitor takes this opportunity through a very creative expression to represent the diversity of the LGBTQIA community through music.
Definitely, and I'm all for being extraordinary, not ordinary.
That's so cool. And don't forget to check out Vitor's Facebook, YouTube and Instagram for some amazing videos on lip syncing and learning English. And Vitor's Instagram is frequently updated with syncing quizzes and competitions for everyone to take part in.
I'm definitely going to try out some lip syncing and have fun with it.
I think I'm going to try it too. So I thought I might introduce you to another innovative method, which people are talking about quite a lot these days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Dogme, or Dogme ELT. It was created by Scott Thornberry, a teacher educator, who originally wrote an article in the TEFL newsletter where he spelt out a way of teaching that was without technology or books. It's called Materials Light or Unplugged.
And this came from the movie genre, didn't it? Or the movie movement that was at the similar time that was about making films without scripts or without too much preparation.
So the philosophy behind the films fits very well with this way of teaching.
Yes.
Both Thornberry and Luke Meddings went on to develop the approach to teaching, which I thought we could maybe explore a bit today.
Okay, yep, I'm up for that.
So,
am I a guinea pig?
Yes.
Okay, go on then.
Before we start, can I ask you to get a pen and paper?
Okay, pen, paper.
Okay, that's good. Because I want you to make a few notes on your ideas. The question is, I want you to think about what makes a good lesson. And you can think from both the teacher and the learner's point of view.
Do you want me to write now?
Yeah, if you start writing now. So make a few notes.
Actually, hear me writing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, I will entertain the listeners.
How much do you need? I've got 4 words. Is that enough?
Take a minute or two. Think about a few words or phrases that come to mind when you think about learning or teaching and what happens in the classroom, what you expect to happen. So while you're doing that, I'm just going to read a couple of quotes. This is about Dogme. So this one comes from Jeremy Harmer, and he mentions the principle that when people have a conversation, learning takes place. Okay? So any of the listeners are thinking about what is Dogme, what are the rules, then this gives us a little insight. Also, there's another quote which is an M. Keep working. I can see you put your pen down. Pick it up again. Carry on. I'll give you another minute.
Okay.
There's another great article which describes Dogme. I've taken a quote from there. This is from What is ELT? And the quote is, although there is no formal lesson plan for Dogme lessons, that does not mean that the teacher does not need to prepare for the lesson. Knowledge of the learners and a high level of language awareness, as well as knowledge of teaching techniques and a wide repertoire of classroom activities, are essential for the teacher to be confident when employing the Dogme approach in lessons.
I like that. That's really good to remember.
Mm-hmm.
I have put my pen down now. Sorry, I was listening to the last bit. But yeah, it's a really good point. It's not just about going in without any ideas or thoughts in your mind. I think you've got to go in with some preparation mentally.
Yes, that's it.
So, Do you want to hear my words or my phrases?
I do. So what did I ask you to do, Em?
You asked me to write down words or phrases that I think of as being a successful lesson.
Okay.
And so I started with dynamic and...
Hold on. Dynamic, you said?
Yeah.
What do you mean by dynamic?
Lots of pace and interesting activities that have maybe different time periods for them. Some fast, some slow.
And are you doing these activities on your own?
No, I don't think so. I really think it's better to be with other people, with other students or with the teacher, but definitely together.
And why is it more interesting together?
Well, like I say, it's dynamic and it's interactive, and I think it's really interesting that way.
Oh, interactive. Now that's a good word. So I'm going to call that one interactivity. It's the most direct route to learning, which is found in interactivity between teachers and students and amongst the students themselves. Let's see what you're saying and just see how this fits with Dogme.
I see, that's what you're doing. Okay, so the next idea I have is fun and interesting. Like I said before, engaging. I have to want to learn. I have to want to know what's coming and find out more about it.
And so engagement, tell me how you feel engaged. What is engagement for you?
Well, interesting topic. Something I don't know.
So it's holding your attention.
Yeah, holding my attention. Something I don't know about, that I want to know more about, something that I find very useful and would be interested in.
You didn't expect this topic. Maybe it is particularly interesting for you. As a teacher or as a student, where is the content coming from?
Well, usually it's from the teacher, isn't it? But I know a little bit about Dogme, so I know that most of it should actually come from the student. So I would hope my teacher would know what I'm interested in or would talk to me in a way that creates that interest for me, leads me into something that I would like to talk about.
So you would find it more interesting if the content actually came from your own interests?
As a student, absolutely.
Aha, okay. And as a teacher, like you said, you would try to find out what the student likes the most, what they're interested in. Maybe something happened recently, they went to an event or
exactly.
Something happened,
Yeah.
and the student would be most engaged if this related directly to something that they experienced.
I definitely think that is the case. I mean, I've taken stuff into lessons about things I've found interesting as a teacher, and often the students do find it interesting too, but I definitely would say more successful lessons have been when the student has created that topic or talked about something.
So that's engagement. Good. What's the next thing you've written?
So I've written a relaxed atmosphere where I feel happy and I don't feel on edge and that I can enjoy myself.
So this is a social situation. This is somewhere where you feel comfortable. This is not an artificial environment where maybe you feel self-conscious and the interaction is forced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice, yeah.
So the language is conversation-based.
As a student, I would like it to be probably more conversation-based.
Okay. From what I took from your earlier statements, it sounded more like it was coming from just a natural communication interaction between the teacher and the student rather than a reading exercise or a listening to a recording exercise.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think you've described dialogic processes, which suggests learning is social and dialogic, which we mean basically dialogue, conversation, where knowledge is co-constructed.
Nice.
What does that suggest to you, Em? Co-constructed?
Collaboration.
Between
teacher, student,
Yep.
everybody. It's that word again that I said at the beginning.
That's it.
That I got from TEFL India. I'm going to give them credit for that.
That's brilliant. And to focus a little bit more precisely on this co-constructed language, what would the teacher's responsibility be here?
Well, that was my next point, because I have to learn something from a student's point of view. I can't just go in and have a nice chat. I want to come out with something I didn't go in with. I want to learn something, Gav, as a student. So I think the teacher has to upgrade, has to reformulate, has to make more from what the students produce.
I feel like you're describing the building of a tower. And first of all, the teacher is helping you, supporting you with what's at the bottom of the tower? The foundations.
Yes.
And then on top of that, the tower grows and builds. And the teacher is not present within this tower. They're not stuck in the tower and saying, let me out, but they're somehow surrounding it. And what do you put around the tower to help
Scaffolding.
Scaffolding. So
are you quoting this, or is this from one of your metaphors now?
This might be one of my metaphors.
Okay, so the teacher is the scaffolding.
Scaffolded conversations. Learning takes place through conversations where the learner and teacher co-construct the knowledge and skills.
Okay, then you quoted, so you're mixing it up. Right, yeah, I agree, definitely. Support there. That the students need to leave thinking, oh, well, I actually can do that better than I could before.
Yes. Which is different. If you have student and student, this is obviously a very meaningful exchange and they can enjoy and learn from each other. But when there's a teacher present, there is that support, what did you call it?
Scaffolding, yes.
That's it. It's the support to help the student and try to avoid or correct mistakes or just help them.
Exactly. Mistakes, that's the thing. You need to correct as a teacher. I think it's really important, even though this is a relaxed and fun conversation, you're still upgrading.
The teacher's competency may not be at a high enough level to, as you said, upgrade the language. If the teacher is not able to do this, doesn't have experience, maybe is very reliant on their materials in the books, then this will not naturally happen. And there could be disadvantages here.
Yeah, I think that's my fear of Dogme, that my students will leave thinking, well, yeah, that was a nice chat, but what did I learn? So that is a point to consider.
Yeah, there could be a drawback there. Also, I think we mentioned before in earlier episodes where just making some notes of the language could be useful. So I don't know if the teacher is going to do that or the student could do that, but make sure there is some record of the lesson perhaps. And the student can leave with some of this. I always say at the end of the lesson, okay, students, look at the board. All of the words on the board are all the words that we came up with in the lesson. Do you remember them? If you don't, go home, make sure you learn them. Maybe write some example sentences, bring them to the next lesson, and we'll just go through them.
So there's a couple of cons, but mainly pros.
Yes.
I've got one more word, which is memorable.
Memorable. What do you mean by memorable?
Well, as much as I've enjoyed it and it was interesting and I felt relaxed and it was useful language, I need to know when I leave as a student, I need to be able to produce it again another time. So I need to make sure I remember it.
Aha. So I can see that's really, really important.
But then making it memorable is by, I suppose, having the conversation in a what was that word? Dialogic way. And that would be memorable, wouldn't it?
I think that's a really good point you've made. And if we go back through the key features of Dogme, we said the interaction between the teacher and the learner, or the learner and the learner. These are meaningful, these are co-constructed, and they are social interactions, which I know for me are the most memorable.
Yeah, the real ones.
And where did you say the language in our lessons is coming from?
Student.
And how does it arrive?
Verbally.
Aha. And is it forced?
Nope.
What's another word for arrive?
I don't know. Get to? Arrive.
Begins with an E. A butterfly.
Emerge.
Oh, very good. Emerge. How does it emerge?
How does it emerge? From the students' memories, from the students' opinions, and ideas.
Are we using grammar?
Well, I think it's there within the conversation.
Are we using vocabulary?
Sure.
So the emergence is natural. The language and grammar emerge from the learning process. This is seen as distinct from acquisition of language.
Well, that's a common word, isn't it, in teaching? Acquisition. So it's not about acquiring, it's about emerging language.
Okay.
Where's all this from, Gav?
Well, I'm just reading from Wikipedia.
You need to reference that in the show notes.
I was going to at the end, but thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
There is also another thing which you haven't really mentioned. But
Have I missed something?
What about the opportunity for language?
Right, so giving the students time to speak, giving them a platform and allowing them to produce it.
But also, if we choose the topic as a teacher and say, right, today we're going to talk about fashion, and the student looks at you and says, why?
Yeah.
That would be different than if you were in the conversation and the language emerged, the topic emerged, and then this opportunity is beneficial to the student.
Are you going to give me a demo of how to create this emergence? Because if I say we're going to talk about fashion, I agree that's not going to be well received. But then if I say, do you want to talk about fashion? That's not emergence, is it? But that's giving a choice. So how do you start a conversation where that naturally comes up?
Well, I've already demonstrated it, Em.
Have I been in the experiment the whole time?
Yeah. So I gave you the opportunity for the language to appear. And now I'm scaffolding. Maybe I'm supporting you a little bit more now. So I think there's a few details that we missed earlier. So we're just going back over it. So if we talk about the emergence of language, then this is different from me simply giving you the language or forcing you to follow a prescribed formula.
Yeah. And on the other side of this conversation, I don't feel like you've just been talking at me. I feel like I've been part of this whole process. So I think you tick the Dogme box there.
So this is what we call affordances. So these are the opportunities.
Right.
What the environment offers the individual. So I offered you the chance to talk about what makes a lesson for you. What are the key features? And you gave me your ideas, and we're still working through that. So the teacher's role is to optimize language learning affordances through direct attention to emergent language.
But I came to this podcast lesson, let's say, I wanted to talk about this. What happens if that language doesn't naturally emerge? If you've got a group of very quiet students, for example, it can happen where nobody really wants to talk. Just keep trying until something sparks.
I guess that this teaching style is just not going to work with some students.
Okay, which is true of every teaching style. So I think that it's worth remembering that it's not a guaranteed winner.
Yeah. I'll tell you another key point of Dogme is voice. The learner's voice is given recognition along with the learner's belief and knowledge.
Which means, from the teacher's side, you don't dismiss anything. You always comment.
That's it. The power comes from the voice, from the interaction through the conversation, which is how humans learn. It's how we experience the world, often through speaking.
True. Not just speaking, though. Like you say, it's about getting something back. It's about getting acknowledgement and that reaction. It's really important that the students are not just talking and nobody is listening or nobody is reacting.
And what is that feeling when I give you the power of speech? When I say to you, I want to hear what you have to say on this topic.
Validation. Powerful.
Empowerment. That's it. I've given you empowerment. Students and teachers are empowered by freeing the classroom of published materials and textbooks. Okay, so I said, put the book to the side. You can do that for your homework when you're sitting on your own and you've got some time. This moment, this is your opportunity to listen, to speak, to have an interaction with me.
Nice.
If we do use materials, which I know you and I do,
Yeah.
what's important about these materials?
They're relevant.
Relevance. Materials, e.g. text, audios and videos should have relevance for the learners.
I haven't seen this, have I?
You're amazing. It's absolutely amazing how you're practically reading all of my notes here.
Well, it must be the leading of you're scaffolding me so well.
Okay. Well, finally, the final point. Teachers and students should use published materials and textbooks in a critical way that recognises their cultural and ideological biases.
Is this connected to relevance or what's this? Sensitivity?
This is critical use.
What's that?
Well, I think over the last few years, you and I have started to reflect on some of the materials we use and have seen their limitations.
Oh, okay.
And I remember in episode 8, Spaces, we really explored this topic and talked about using relevant materials, using diverse materials, inclusive materials that will reflect all of society, which I think is the way you and I would like to teach.
So it has to be interesting to the student, but also socially sensitive.
Yes. And as Vitor mentioned earlier, we want to give more representation to everyone.
Good. Really good.
Em, would you like to summarise the Dogme approach?
Me? Yeah, sure. Okay. So very student-centred. Language emerges from the student. Upgrading and scaffolding support from the teacher to give more language. It has to be mainly verbal. Any materials should be relevant and socially not offensive to anyone. And that kind of teaching will empower the students to feel confident and happy and fulfilled.
That's it, exactly. So yeah, just remember about the emergence of language and the affordances, which is the opportunity for the language to come out of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm always so aware of that when my students come to me, like into the lesson. I think, right, this is their time. This is what they need now. They need time to speak. They need time to experiment and try all the language they have. And it's not about me, it's about them producing it.
Yeah.
And exactly. I always have that in my mind when I'm teaching.
So you're already using this method to some degree?
To some degree, yeah.
That's it. Just remember to keep it materials light.
That's one thing I think I can look at maybe trying.
I think we can all benefit from taking a few tips from Dogme to improve our teaching and learning. Well, thank you for this experience and doing the Dogme demo with me, Em. I'll put all the links in the show notes for everything I have mentioned. And thank you to Scott Thornbury and Luke Meddings for all their writing, and also Jeremy Harmer and the people at Wikipedia for explaining it fantastically.
Good resources, yeah.
Before we finish, I just want to thank our followers for all the lovely comments we've had on our Instagram account. If you haven't already, you can find us at HowToEnglishPod on Instagram. So we just want to say a special thank you to these listeners and followers, starting with Juicy Ara Cipriano,
Andes.everyday.english,
Into English with a number 2 and double H,
English with Saviz, with a Z at the end.
Live and Learn _podcast.
And last one is Vita_British. So Gav, it's the end of the episode and you know what that means?
I do. It's time for our teacher musician to play us out.
Yes, and today's song is called
We Get Lost
by Shemsi. And this is a great one for lip syncing if anyone wants to try it. Everyone can find the links to Shemsi's song in our show notes and enjoy the song.
Hi guys, my name is Shemsi and I'm happy to be guest on Gav and Em's podcast. Thank you very, very much guys for the invitation. I'm going to tell a bit about myself now. I'm a singer, songwriter, but also a secondary school teacher like you guys. Music is a part of my life and I just keep on doing music, share it and hope to achieve some hearts with my voice and songs. Just getting creative, you know. I come from Germany and originally from Kosovo. I'm currently working on some self-written songs and keep releasing them from time to time. In a few minutes, you will hear a song of mine, which is about a relationship between two people who feel love and hate for each other at the same time, but cannot do without the other. You know that feeling when you don't want to let go because you have put in way too much, and you also want to let go because all that you've put in seems no more than a bad investment. And that's what the song is all about, actually. The song is called We Get Lost. You can listen to it on YouTube, and I hope you're going to like it. Thank you very much. Bye.
flashbacks got me feeling so high and bad at the same time. Feeling messed up. You got me losing my head. Can we break up? Can we break up? You make me get faded, feeling so jaded. Through my compassion, create a new inception of our love reflection. I was going to let this go, but you always got me going. There's only one thing I'd like to know, why you always drive me crazy. When we get lost, we get lost, we get lost, looking into each other's eyes. We get lost, we get lost, we get lost, looking into each other's eyes. In spite of all the shit you put me through, yeah. In fact, I can't take my eyes off you. I used to like that Gucci style and white Bugatti. When we went like crazy party, laughing, barely stopping. Then we realized that we can't get enough from each other's laughing. Wishing that these moments would last forever. Even if I leave, your heart will bleed. I guess